Today we're diving into one of the most intriguing and honestly underrated Targaryen figures in the Dance of the Dragons, Prince Daeron Targaryen, also known as Daeron the Daring. And I'll just say it up front, this is one of those characters where the more you read, the more you start thinking, yeah, he deserved way more attention than he gets. Let's break it down properly. Daeron is the third and youngest son of King Viserys I Targaryen and his second wife, Queen Alicent Hightower. That makes him the younger brother of Aegon II Targaryen, Aemon Targaryen, and Helaena Targaryen, and also the half-brother of Rhaenyra Targaryen. Right away, you can already see the pressure around him. Born right into one of the most politically explosive families in Westeros. Honestly, just surviving that environment is impressive on its own. Most accounts describe Daeron as the gentlest of Alicent's sons. He's polite, clever, and generally well-liked, especially compared to the more aggressive energy of Aegon II and Aemond. And I'll be real, that contrast alone makes him way more interesting as a character than people give him credit for. Physically, he's described in classic Targaryen fashion: silver gold hair, dragon lord features, and a generally handsome appearance. And then we get to his dragon, Targaryen, the she-dragon. I'm not gonna lie, Targaryen alone already makes Daeron cooler than half the cast in this era. There's just something about a younger prince quietly bonding with a dragon that later becomes a war weapon. During his early years, Daeron is sent to Oldtown at around 12, serving as cupbearer and squire to Lord Ormond Hightower. So while King's Landing is slowly boiling with tension, he's actually growing up away from the main chaos, which is kind of ironic considering how central he becomes later. Meanwhile, tensions are rising between him and his relatives on the other side, especially Jacaerys Velaryon, Lucerys Velaryon, and Joffrey Velaryon. Then everything explodes with the death of King Viserys I Targaryen in 129 AC. Aegon II Targaryen takes the throne, while Rhaenyra Targaryen claims her inheritance and the Dance of the Dragons begins. Daeron is still in Oldtown at this point, but this is where things shift fast. During the Battle of the Honeywine, Lord Ormond Hightower's forces are on the edge of collapse. Then Daeron arrives on Targaryen and completely flips the battle. And I've got to say, that entrance is pure main character energy. No debate. That moment earns him the title Daeron the Daring. And from there, his reputation starts to solidify across multiple accounts. Daeron then becomes a major force in the Reach campaign. Houses like House Rowan, House Oakheart, and even the Shield Islands submit to the Greens largely because no one wants to test what Targaryen can do in open battle. And honestly, that kind of influence at such a young age, that's impressive no matter how you look at it. But the war doesn't stay honorable for long. After the death of Prince Maelor Targaryen at Bitterbridge, Daeron orders Targaryen to burn the town. This is one of those moments where interpretations really split. Some accounts frame it as brutal wartime retaliation, others as justified revenge in a collapsing war. And yeah, this is where Daeron becomes a much darker figure depending on who's telling the story. Later, during the chaos around Tumbleton, things completely fall apart for the Greens' host after the death of Lord Ormond Hightower. Command disputes break out, and figures like Unwin Peake start pushing their own agendas. At the same time, the infamous betrayal of Ulf White and Hugh Hammer, the so-called Dragon Seeds, shifts everything. Daeron tries to maintain control in the middle of all this chaos, which honestly feels like him constantly trying to hold together something that's already collapsing. There's even that moment where Hugh Hammer starts acting like he deserves a crown, and Daeron reacts with open anger. Then we reach the Second Battle of Tumbleton, and this is where Daeron's story ends. But even here, nothing is clear. Some accounts say he died when his pavilion burned and collapsed during the chaos caused by sea smoke. Others claim he was struck down while trying to escape. One version even says a man-at-arms killed him without realizing who he was, possibly with a morning star, sometimes linked to Black Trombo. And the most grounded versions, including those associated with Gyldayn and Munkun, suggest the simplest outcome. His burning tent collapsed on him. And I'll be honest, the fact that his death is still unclear actually makes him more memorable, because across all accounts, one thing is consistent. Prince Daeron Targaryen died at the Second Battle Battle of Tumbleton. His body was never identified, which later sparked rumors during the reign of Aegon III Targaryen that he might have survived. But Maester records largely dismiss these as false. Afterward, Aegon II Targaryen reportedly ordered statues of his brothers, including Aemon Targaryen and Daeron Targaryen, in King's Landing, though the project was later halted during the regency under Tywin Lannister. So when you zoom out, Daeron's story hits differently. A young prince, often described as gentle, rising out of Old Town with Tessarion, earning the name Daeron the Daring, shaping entire regions of the war and then disappearing into one of the most uncertain deaths in the entire Dance of the Dragons. And I'll say it again, Daeron is one of those characters who quietly proves that not all legends come from the loudest voices. Some just show up, change the battlefield, and vanish into history.